How's it going? My name is ADC4, and what you're looking at is me messing around with online webcam effects. So not nothing you can download. We're talking just random online effects. And this one specifically, I used free websites for this, but the one you're looking at right now is called Webcam Toy. This one's the vintage effect. Now I would something I would do. Actually, before we get into what I did to kind of achieve some of these effects, is make them a little bit more believable. So, before we get into that, I would say that first of all, I'm using the Vintage TV Archives capture of the V of Pinball, specifically the full Phil Silvers one from 2 months ago that he uploaded. Vintage, well, the vintage is over, so now we're on Rose, which we placed this here. Rose kind of looks like a deteriorated film, in my opinion, but it feels like if you'd seen it on a TV, like a TV network, so maybe like a open access network or something like that, like a horrible one. The vintage, the TVTA watermark is, I also tested out to see if watermarks would disappear sometimes. So in that one, the Vintage TV Archives watermark did disappear that time, or at least was less visible. This one's retro, which represents more of a what people saw in like 70s, 80s TVs, like horrible color TVs, I guess. Not necessarily like a U-matic tape. Think of it more as like if you're watching it in the 70s or 80s, the stereotypical like effects they'd use. Um, Now, what I did sometimes was shake the screen around on purpose to kind of give it more of a film effect, or maybe even like a just a sudden jab. I believe I do it here. No, I don't do it here. Yeah, or like a sudden jab, just to kind of put some more see how it would affect the video, right? Some of these I didn't spend that much time at all because I didn't think they would work. They didn't. I wouldn't think they wouldn't work. If it works, I would play more. I'll actually play the video itself. Besides here, because I forgot to play the video. This one's Envy. So I tested this one out because this is more of a, again, it's more like Rose, but with more green. So the Vintage TV Archives watermark seems blurred here. But that's just because the edges are blurred, which, you know, still doesn't mean anything. It still means it's blurred, but you can kind of see what I mean by that. This kind of reminds me of the Oz films that have green tints to them. The one with the heads. This one's called Zinc. Now this one I feel like more accurately describes a 70s, 80s Betamax recording, because depending on the network. You would get like a gray style thing. You wouldn't get these red like edges, but it would kind of work in my opinion. Now, you may be asking, why am I doing this? I'm doing this to somewhat raise awareness of I have seen some fake logo captures that use use something like this, where it's like a webcam effect. This one's called Silk. This one kind of reminds me of two things, like a black and white film that has its brightness up a bunch, so like a like the processing wasn't done properly. But when I did this, originally it reminded me more of a VHS recording of like a film, because sometimes they don't end out well. Especially if they're like not like mastered properly, like a bootleg. Think of it more of a bootleg as, or something like that. This one's Old Movie, which for the film effects that they put in, it wouldn't, to people who know this type of stuff, like, you know, me and ironically the Vintage TV Archive. Besides the real film effects in there, there are just circles with what is it? I forgot exactly what it's called, but I'm gonna call it blurred, like, you know, roundness, I guess you can call it. Featherness, that's what I was thinking of. It's called featherness. It's an effect where it kind of, you can kind of see it. Just go back to it. This one's called Cocktail, and I mainly tested that one out. Some of these I just skipped over because I know they wouldn't work. Um, and I should say that I made a video mocking the entire idea of like logo stealing. I don't have a personal problem with it, but I feel like the only time logo stealing is deserved to be like frowned upon is if they are adding effects like this. Because if you're going to preserve it, just preserve it the way it is. Don't try to restore it or anything. This effect in particular, definitely reminds me more of a 70s slightly destroyed, capture of a TV show, right? Or an old TV show. So this is what, 40s, 50s, whatever. The Vintage TV Archives watermark certainly gets a little, because this is Lomo. It's kind of around the edges of the screen. It starts to kind of, I believe, get blacker around the edges of the screen. So like, think of it more of as a blur, I'd say. Now let's see. This was the last one I tried of webcam effects. This one was called LSD, and I was unsure how this would work. Now, so for starters, this would work if it was like a restored. If you want to make like a restored fake print of it, like ones where it's like Windows Movie Maker fade-ins and fade-outs. There are stuff like that. But two problems with this, especially here, because you can see it, the brightness is kind of a bit high, and especially when it comes to the logos, like this one right there, that looked kind of cool, but that's not how the Viacom logo should go. It's like, it feels more like a 3D dimensional logo. Actually, it's not the last one I tried. I'm just dumb. I'm dumb. Oof. This one's called Alien, and I didn't really try it for long because it didn't really work well. This site is called PhotoFriend. So this one's SiltScan, which I kind of just messed around here because I didn't expect it to be, work well. It's more like something you played with. It definitely looks cool, but it wouldn't be true to the original print, I'd say. So that was SiltScan. So I restart the video here, and for some reason, for how the website works, or actually I should say that I kind of just go back, I believe. Yeah, it took me a second. Now, I didn't try most of these color ones, but I definitely did see how they could be used in a way. Because if you tint a film, sometimes it will turn into a certain color. You could definitely use this. So the next one I tried was Steam down in the corner, which I click on. Now, I was interested to see how this would work. Now, I was hoping I would get like a Hypercam-esque effect where you get a lot of anti-flickering. Not necessarily. It's more or less anti-flickering, yes, but it's kind of like inverted in where it goes on, when you record with a Hypercam video, right? It doesn't really work too well, but it's probably because of how this effect in particular works. It's not really a Hypercam, esque effect. It's more it's steam, so it's meant to mimic like steam on a screen. I tested these out just to see if they were really as pixelated as it was, and yes, it was. That's why I clicked off that really quick. Old movie. Now, ironically, actually, to be honest with you, all three of these sites had old movie stuff, right? This also has circles, but they're not like, they don't have a feather effect on them. They're literally just black circles. So when it comes to the last old movie effect, I feel like it works slightly better. I assume that if the old movie thing down there would not be there, you could still see the Vintage TV Archive watermark, but it's another one of those like black feathered edges around the screen. So in a hypothetical way, you could get rid of that watermark using this effect. I really hope no one's getting ideas by watching this, but it's probably what people are gonna do. I'm mainly doing this for the sake of seeing what would exactly work and show you effects people could use. This one's called Dream. Now, when I saw this, I was like, this fits perfectly. This is like a 2007 Android recording. Never mind, that'd be more like a flip phone recording. It's in very low quality, and I shake it around to give it a effect of like a TV recording of it. So, as you see here, I feel like it would definitely work for like a TV recording from the late 2000s, maybe even mid 2000s. Not like a capture card, but a literal recording of the TV. I feel like it would work here. Now, the screen's going to be mirrored for a second, but I figured out that there's a mirror thing up top, so, and I did that pretty quickly. This is the I believe this is the third old movie one. This one's probably the worst one out of all of them, because it's literally, there's not even really film effects, I think. It's just sepia toned and a Lomo effect. Which, yeah, it can kind of get the job done, but it really depends if the actual film has film effects. Never mind, I was sepia tone. I'm just, yeah, you can tell how much of a script this video has. Haha, it has none. This one, I forgot what the name of it was, but this is just I see it as a second sepia tone, but more brighter. Or actually more desaturated, I'd say. When I start shaking it around just to see how it would work, I didn't really see it much. Process 2 is more like the Oz thing again. The saturated would just be black and white. I tried smooth, blindly thinking it could work again. Smooth was not what I expected it to be. It was more like if you put an HDR effect and a glamorous glow effect on Pixlr. This is a Technicolor. Now, I was unsure how well this would work, because even when I pulled it back, it looked kind of good. I used the sliders on the right to start messing around with it. It's mainly just desaturating everything, and I think just getting the blues and the reds a lot more. Which I can kind of see, but it's not really a good alternative to making it what it could be. Anyways, here we go. This is, for some reason, that time, it didn't really... So, it's kind of hard to rate that one, because it's kind of making everything more red and blue. It's not even desaturating it. Here, there's 9 retro effects, so I just put this up to all of 9 of them, which for some reason all of 9 of them have somewhat slight sync issues. Out of all of these, I would describe the second one probably being the best one. For TV, I would describe alright, I moved, never mind. I usually just look for mainly TV film or TV effects. And I started going through all of them because I knew a lot of these were just different effects of like color. Here's the vintage section, and then we go to the next section, which is more just more of the same thing. I think my favorite part, right? So I noticed this thing called grit down here, so I try this one out. This also gives a vibe to me of a old recording from the early 2000s, or actually late 2000s. So that's why I start shaking it a bit too. I noticed you can change the grit a little bit and the contrast. So I tried seeing if I can get a interesting like effect here. Again, not as well as the last effect I described this as, but it can get the job done, I guess. It can kind of get the job done. Around here I realized you can just use these as a preview and have to save the time. I think my favorite one's Flag. For this site, dude, this site called Flag. I just realized I forgot to give the name of what this was. This was called Pixect, P-I-X-E-C-T. Now this one, I'm unsure to describe the quality of this one. This is more of a sepia tone one, but I feel like this would work if you're going for a CRT effect, but you need to put a little bit more effort into it because, you know, CRTs, because they when you record a CRT with your phone, you know the obvious effect of it having like different contrasts. Think of it as like a splice. Different parts of the screen have splices of different contrasts, and it flickers a lot. Now this is the old movie. Now this one is in the middle, I'd say. Or very big difference from this sucks. I'd say there are too many film like scratches. I don't know why, but for some reason everyone's obsessed with film scratches when it comes to film effects. Not even really much of the dust or hair, and there is some fake dust and hair. So at least they got that right, but I'm pretty sure there was no way to really change that, but I don't know, I forgot to really use these. I was mainly going after what they could be considered as. So I noticed Dizzy, right? And I was also going for that restored look of it just fading in. So not really. But I tried. It kind of hard. Here the vintage DVR archive watermark it disappears. You can kind of see it there, but you know, you can kind of you can kind of see the three-dimensional effect I was talking about earlier. But all in all, the restored ones that I was kind of looking at didn't really work too well. We're almost at the end of the video, so this I believe was either the second or last effect. This one is another one where I didn't like it. It's these ones that say 1988. They have specific years, like they're representing that year by doing it. And that wasn't the last one. Yeah, I can tell. 1960, like not even like this year. You can change these like in between splices, if that makes sense. You can change the stereo effect here. So obviously this does not really look real. So I tried making it more thin to see if I can get like a VHS effect to it. Yeah, I guess you could say you can get a VHS effect of it for like the color bleeding, but nothing else with that. You can also combine effects on Pixect, which I didn't do because I was just mainly looking for one singular effect. And we're pretty much at the end of the video, so have a good day. Bye-bye.